This. Let me load you up. All right.
It's funny.
3s, 2s. Yeah, you did say that.
There's always some awkward receiver somewhere.
Do we have any crazy weather this week? I'm looking now. I don't know if we have any crazy weather this week. Nope. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, our special OSG Fantasy episode where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. I'm your host, Jay, with our guest, the OSG. Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, like, subscribe, rate us, review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Meh, let's do it 5 anyway, and gift it. So, of course, on today's episode, we're going to go in position by position once again after we talk about a recap of last week. Make sure you check out the lineups that we provide. OSG's write-up comes out on Saturdays after this episode, so you'll have all the details to start your rosters on Sunday morning. Hit us up on the Unfair Fan Line, 430-901-1906, and let us know what you think. Give us your strongest opinions. Tell us how you did in daily fantasy. Tell us if you won something. We'd love to celebrate you, the people, along with the stuff that we do. So hit us up, 430-901-1906. OSG. Happy.
Yes.
Happy. It's Thursday when we're recording. Yes. So we've got a Thursday episode where we get to show our excitement and talk about how we did last week.
Yes, Jay had the big win, so we're excited about that. Thanks to Brady, and that's the funny thing we put.
And no thanks to Brady,
but that's true. But you know, for our purposes, for our selfish purposes, both of our big weeks was on the back of Brady. If you can,
that is true.
And more Godwin than that week it was more Brown and Evans than Godwin, but Godwin because we said even though Evans had a decent game,
he did have a decent one.
He normally does have against Lattimore, but Godwin was the play. And,
you could. What they did was, and I noticed this as far as like scheme goes, they put him in motion and put him in slot. Mm-hmm. And Lattimore doesn't follow the slot; he only stays on the anchors. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you got to see Evans actually kind of participate because he's on my season long, so I needed something, and we got it. Lenny, not so much, but that's another day. But
and then when you kind of look at the rest of the roster, you had Cooper Kupp in the right spot and kind of game stacked him with Brandon Cooks, and that game, it was enough for them. Like we said, he's like a number one receiver down there, and we talked about how good the spot for the tight ends in Jacksonville had been in their report, and so you built that. I had said I didn't like, Brady had a bad game last year against the Saints, both games. But, but it started off a little rough. Like he had I think he turned the ball over there in that Saints game. I think he fumbled or something.
He had 3 turnovers in that game.
Yes, he did.
So the Saints defense did their job.
Yep. So he went back but he still, did enough to push you over the top though. So, hey, it's a good day.
Yeah, I can't argue about the day itself.
Okay. Take the win and you run.
I take it and I ran. And so for those that don't know, if you check out the Instagram, unfair_sports, I went into a picture on there as well as the OSG report. I put a picture on there. Mm-hmm. I walked out with 1,900 from this past week. I basically took the week 8 OSG report. Kind of backstory, had a crazy long weekend, didn't sleep for some reason just because I have issues with sleeping. And I was up middle of the night, got up, did some class work for my master's program. After that, went back to sleep at like 7 in the morning, got up at around 10:30 and was like, man, I think I'm out. Yep. But then I said, you know what? No, I'm vested in this. I'm going to do it. We're going to grind this.
Grind every week.
Grind every week.
Every Sunday.
If you don't want to do it, then that's the day you do it. Yes.
And then you don't want to do it when you least expect it. So
you least expect it. So I looked through it. I had my Justin Herbert rosters that we've been riding like crazy. Yep. I did stack up some Damian Harris, which was Damian was great. The optimizer gave me Michael Carter. So I had the running back that was the top running back. Had your Tom Brady. I think the only change, if there was, that I had mentioned that I would want to have changed is I picked up Van Jefferson because I had a feeling that Deshaun Jackson was going to do it, and then we found out that Deshaun Jackson wasn't playing, and he went out.
And you know what?
He was a cheap play, and he was
Jefferson
good.
Left that game. You actually would have. I think he would have got even more work because one of those Woods touchdowns, I think,
would have been
went to
his, but he ended up getting
Jefferson.
hurt,
Yes.
so we lost him. And then I played the 9K man at Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I was to swap it, I probably would have pulled Cooper Kupp out, played A.J. Brown, and threw Michael Pittman in there instead of Van Jefferson, and I would have been under by like $100.
Yep.
But I would have had 230.
I did have that A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman stack. I kind of thought that game would go back and forth. We talked about that. So, hey.
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about that, and let's move on. And like I said, pay attention. Check us out on Instagram at the OSG Report. Take what you like from that and build your own thoughts from it. But I give you some nuggets to help you build. So let's get to it.
Let's get right into it. So we're going to jump off. We're going to start with quarterback, wide receiver stacks, go to running back defensive stacks. Then we're going to add wide receiver tight ends, your midsection of guys to look at on wide receiver tight end. Finish with defense, special teams, and the frozen features that we do every week,
which have been cold.
Oh,
so we got to break out, but that's okay though.
We have a breakout. We got to figure out who the breakout is.
Yep.
So we've been really ice cold, and we're not burning you though. It's just
going.
cold.
Yep.
So let's roll on right into quarterback, wide receiver stack. So OSG, I'm looking at this week. Since we're going straight positions.
Mm-hmm. Up top. Well, so I think that you got to start with the two
most expensive guys.
Yeah. So I'm really having a hard time clicking on Mahomes at 7.8. I think that Josh Allen at 8.2 and Lamar Jackson at 7.3 are probably going to be my most used quarterbacks. I think Lamar is turning into a pass offense. We talked about that.
Yeah. That's the one thing I've noticed about him is Lamar's 12th in the league in passing yards. He had a bye week. He was at 1.5 in the league in passing.
Yeah, they don't have a running backs. They don't have a running game in the traditional sense.
Stable of running backs, and that's kind of
a three-way committee that you cannot start in fantasy.
No,
but I think for this matchup, because it's actually pretty tough on tight ends, I think it's a prime Lamar Hollywood Brown stack this week.
Okay.
I kind of like running it back with Justin Jefferson. I think that you could even look at Dalvin Cook this week against him when you're kind of looking at stacking, because some of these stacks involve players from the other side. You talked about your Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cook stack.
Yes.
We talked about my A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman stack.
Yes.
Those offenses, the way they interact, we got Kirk back out of prime time, and I think that they're going to be forced to go back to Jefferson when we get to them, because he didn't get a lot of targets. He didn't come out and complain about it, but they know they got to fix that, and you got to bounce back.
Yeah, and you got to keep your young stud happy, because you know that he is the future, and so because of that, I think the biggest play on that piece is definitely Justin Jefferson, because, like I said, we're out of prime time. If anybody's going to shadow him, it's going to be Marlon Humphreys, and I think he will torch Marlon Humphreys as much as I like Marlon.
With Lamar is that he's actually got a good little rapport. Like, you could actually pivot off of Hollywood and go to Rashad Bateman if you want to.
Is Sammy Watkins back this week?
He is, but I think that they're going to go. I think Watkins is going to be irrelevant. I think Bateman's the number 2 play if we really think that Andrews is, I don't want to say held in check, because you can't just hold him in check.
You can't.
And you can still play him, but, keep in mind that the matchups here are better for the receivers than his tight end for Baltimore.
Yeah, and so and thinking about that, as far as like the defenders go, Patrick Patterson's gone for Minnesota. They just lost Danielle Hunter, and so
they have we kind of talk about those linebackers. They have competent ones.
They got competent ones, but they're not going to keep up with the speed that they have.
That is a top notch tight end, but they do see some good tight ends. They see T.J. Hawkinson every week, so we'll kind of see. And so when you look at him at 7.3, we got Josh Allen up there at 8.2, and Mahomes at 7.8. Like, oof.
I don't like Josh Allen at 8.2 for one reason. They're playing Jacksonville, and the price.
They'll smash him.
They're going to smash him. Yeah. Josh Allen probably won't be the reason. Just like the Miami game at the beginning of the season, they won 38-3. Josh Allen had a mediocre game because they didn't need him.
Unless he just wants to bounce back. Like, he did not have a good game as we thought against Miami. Only threw for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did get the rushing touchdown before that,
which is what you look out of him. He's a Kyler Murray. He's going to get you additional numbers.
He got the 29. I do think that if you play Josh Allen, I do think that you go right back to Cole Beasley. He was one of my favorite plays in the article at that value spot, because they're down Dawson Knox.
Have they inflated Emmanuel Sanders yet?
He actually, he had a fat zero and went up $200, to tell you the truth.
So he went up this
zero.
week. Hold up.
He had a big fat zero.
He was 5,400 last week, 2 weeks in a row. Now he's 56. Yeah,
it's up $200 because of the matchup. So you would think that he's got to bounce back from a zero. Like when good players have a zero game, teams come out to want to get them back involved.
Especially he had 4 targets, so they tried.
Compare that to what Beasley had and how many targets he came up with. He's in the double-digit target land.
Yep.
But I really liked him in that spot. And, we're looking at this Jacksonville matchup. I talked up DK Metcalf against Jacksonville. But Lockett went out there, but playing in the slot. So you kind of maybe lean Beasley in this matchup. He's coming off 13 targets, 10 catches, 111 yards.
That's true.
Just saw Tyler Lockett whip that spot there. So with or without Allen, I think Coles Beasley's in play there. But, we'll stick with the stacking.
Okay. Going down the line. Who?
Kyler Murray.
Kyler right now, he's questionable.
Highly questionable.
But they're saying that he's most likely going to he's going to play. Because the last report I read stated that they don't believe he needs to practice in order to play, which makes sense. He is the start. He's a quarterback. He understands the team. He can read it.
So it's a tough spot against Frisco. We saw that go. What was that score a couple weeks ago against that was an ugly game against San Francisco. That's
17-10. Kyler had 239. He had a touchdown. Mm-hmm. He only gave us 13 points.
And then D. Hopkins is highly questionable.
I
think if he's out, I really like Christian Kirk, by the way. If you want to play them, I don't,
If you want a cheap one, I don't normally recommend this one. This is probably a good AJ Green play. At cheap, he's going to have a bounce back after that atrocious
I think
Thursday
the
night
Green
game.
And the Kirk, the regular outside receivers, get the bump if D-Hop mix. Not necessarily Rondale Moore. I don't think his role changes out of 3. I think you look at the main ones. But
if anything, Rondale Moore get run. He get carries.
The division game is still a very ugly matchup. Why would you want to do that when you got Josh Allen and Lamar sitting here?
That's it.
So it's moved down some.
Your boy Justin Herbert.
For one more week, I'm going to ride it because now he's in the best matchup of all of the. I recommend him against Baltimore, and Baltimore's defense showed up at home. New England's defense does what Belichick sometimes does. He took out Mike Williams, and
he takes out the best player on that offensive side.
And
yes,
I did say that I like the bounce back for Eckler in that game.
Yes,
he had a good game, and I actually think you could play Eckler and Herbert. We keep kind of chasing the Mike Williams, Keenan Allen stack, but I think could run it through there. They either run the ball with him, and then they throw the ball to him. So if he throws it to him, if he scores a reception touchdown, you have a pretty decent stack. And honestly, the Philly receiver matchup is a little more difficult. They actually guard the receivers well. That's why we keep attacking these tight ends with them.
Yes.
Even though they scored absolutely 0, TJ Hawkinson still had a good game for fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
When we pull up his game log. I think he got like 10 targets in that game.
Yeah.
So I think that you can go to Herbert and maybe just play him naked. I mean, Jared Cook actually didn't do bad. I had a lot of optimals popping him last week.
That's true.
And then he went out there and he did pretty decent in their game last week for a cheap tight end. So
speaking of the optimizer, right now the top quarterback on here, quarterback number 1 is Lamar Jackson at 19% in my 150 rosters made. Then Jordan Love. Now that's the question I'm curious about before we jump into the next set is what do you think about Jordan Love at the cheap price that he is right now, stepping in for he's 4,400.
You have to
he's
consider
low.
Him. You have to consider him because before
that
news broke, the best value was probably going to be like we talked about Tua off air at 5'8", Taysom Hill at 5'5". Those were probably the cheap plays you were considering because Tua's in a good matchup against Houston. He's got all of his weapons. You talk about Myles Gaskin popping.
Is this really a good matchup?
For Tua?
Yeah.
Well, it's Houston.
I mean,
they suck.
Tyrod Taylor's going to start.
That just makes their offense better because Miami doesn't have the absolute worst defense in the world.
They don't,
it's
but
not the worst.
Texans' defense they started the season out pretty good when they had Tyrod. Remember that game 1 against Jacksonville. Against Jacksonville first week of the season, they beat them up.
And that's with Houston's offense giving resistance back. We talked off air about offenses, how they interact with each other when they're not even on the field. One offense has to do something to push the other one. So you got to have a offense. So for fantasy purpose, we got a bunch of cheap plays. So I think at 5'8", Tua, will I get down there? I don't know. But don't be surprised if he has one of his better games. Outings.
And it's a divisional, so they kind of know each other. And that's one thing I always say too on the main show.
The AFC, they did,
is the offense got to help the defense.
Yeah.
No. They're not. I'm sorry, they're not divisionals. My apologies. I'm thinking I'm thinking about everybody else. I'm thinking about Jacksonville, actually, is what I was thinking about.
I don't even mind, before the news broke about him, I was really looking at Daniel Jones against the Raiders down there at 5'6". But at 4'4", I think you have to consider Love, especially in the matchup.
Yeah.
He's playing the Chiefs.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't touch Mac Jones versus Carolina. Carolina's defense is actually still pretty good.
Can you see Love just checking it down to Aaron Jones?
Yes, a
lot.
Him and
heavily
Dylan
involved in the pass game. So I kind of like A.J. Dillon as your runner. They kind of been handling to him. We kind of look at how they're using. Yeah, Aaron Jones had 15 rushes last week, had only 59 yards, but got in a touchdown. But 11 targets, 7 receptions. And now with Robert Tonyan ACL done for the season, you're down to Adams and Aaron Jones really is their best receiving options.
Okay.
So I kind of like figuring out this Green Bay. Like, we'll have to dive into this Green Bay Chiefs stack, because when this news kind of breaks after you're halfyay into research.
Yeah, it throws everything. You just take paper,
that's
just
the NBA sometimes, So in the NFL, at least you got a couple of days. But you go back to the drawing board. So with it being Thursday, we're looking at some other guys practice Friday. So I think this Love, Aaron Jones, or Devontae Adams, you said Adams is popping. I mean, it's the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are going to play fast. They're not efficient right now. I always like the Green Bay defense.
Yeah. And with that, Tyreek Hill's high. He's right behind Devontae Adams at 28%, with Adams at 30%. So I totally can see that.
Yep. And the thing about Love, and we'll move to the next after this.
Yeah.
The thing about Love is that Chiefs don't know what they're getting. That was the Bengals' problem against White Mike. Like, you was like, where they come from? They didn't have no film on him. You don't know what kind of offense is coming. He actually had Crowder. He had Corey Davis. He's got a run back. He actually has a healthy offense in that game. And you come out there for 1 week flash, and at 4,400, there's worse things we could do. We've played receivers at 3.5 and 3.9 that are just complete bums and zeros, and I don't think he's going to go ahead and get a zero.
Yeah,
not against the Chiefs.
I agree. So there's an opportunity with Jordan Love at the cheapness, and you can stack him with a whole bunch of high-end players around it.
Yes.
It might be worth contemplating.
In this matchup.
Yeah.
If he was playing, New England, if he was playing, Dallas, if he was playing a team with a defense, the Saints.
Baltimore, the Saints, Cincinnati this year, the way they're playing, I would have been more terrified. But this week,
best matchup out there.
And the good thing is he's not playing in his division. If it was a divisional game too, I've been very concerned. So this is definitely a good option with him. So we'll move on into the running backs in a second. Thanks for checking us out. Remember, everything we're talking about here, OSG provides a more in-depth report every Saturday, so you can start just your brainstorming on Saturday nights, prep going right into Sunday mornings. That way you can go ahead and get your rosters built out. OSG Report, check it out on the Medium page, medium.com/the OSG Report, or you can come to our site, medium.com/unfair. It will be listed with our unfair site. Next up, OSG. Running backs. We're going to stack running backs and defenses. And there's a reason why we stack running backs with defense, is because if the running back's going to be thoroughly involved, that means they're going to kill a lot of time. That means that the defenses will potentially get out there, be well rested, stop the game, basically slow down the other team to get the running back out there to run down that clock.
You get short fields. You get short fields behind a good defense. If you see a defense maybe getting some turnovers, you get a short field with a running back.
And running backs are always the first thing to touch the ball in the short field typically.
Yes, they are.
They are. So we've got
one of the things you like in running backs are on the usually favored. You like running backs that are in games that are favored. So that's why it's important to kind of understand the Vegas lines.
Yeah, know the spreads.
Mean, at home and stuff like that. So
spreads are important in that situation. So you're right. So, so first off on the optimizer, what the optimizer was giving us was interesting. You've got 3 wide receivers at 23% plus. At 23%, you got Ezekiel Elliott. Then you got Alvin Kamara at 24%, and then Myles Gaskin is at 25% of rosters.
Hate him.
So what's your beef with Gaskins in this week against Houston, this Houston defense?
Let me pull up Gaskin's game logs there. I mean, at 5'8", you can't hate him.
You can't hate him at 5'8".
4 targets last week.
He's had a 31-point week against Tampa Bay in a game where they were getting their tails kicked and they just had to run the ball. That game,
just throwing it. He caught 10 balls.
Yeah, he caught 10 balls in that game. So as you mentioned, there's a good chance that too, because Houston does not have a bad pass rush.
No,
they just don't have anything else.
Right.
I think that's really the big issue that most people are talking about when it comes to them. And so if that's the case, Gaskins has a great opportunity to be with Tua as captain checkdown.
Right.
and hit that
He's
man.
5'8". So one thing I have with Gaskin is I love Harris at 6K. That's one thing I'm kind of having there. I think they're favored going in this Carolina game. I have no faith in Carolina's offense. That's why I kind of took DJ Moore out of those optimals. I told you he was popping in those rosters that I was getting. And I'm not Sam Darnold's. It's just they don't look good. And it's the eyeball test. Like, yeah, it was a good matchup against Atlanta. And they didn't do nothing.
They didn't. That's the most disappointing part about it. Is I expected Carolina to give us a lot more than what they did. They just didn't give us anything.
They didn't do it. And I think that New England and Belichick is going to come in here. You talk about a defense, and they're telling you what they think about them with their price on DraftKings. They're like hard to play, but they're telling you in the algorithms what they think. And I think they're going to go into Carolina and like look what the Giants did against Carolina and how Devontae Booker got there on a short field, got that touchdown late. And that's got Harris written all over it at 5'8". No, he doesn't catch balls, but he had 23 carries last week. And Belichick will ride him.
He'll ride him. And you also got to remember, too, the Patriots going up against Carolina, they're going against Sam Darnold, who Bill Belichick has been scheming over the last 3 years. He's got about 9 games, 6 games of Sam Darnold film. So,
and I actually don't even mind Devontae Booker 5'9". Kind of talks about liking some Vegas Giants little bump stacks.
Yeah,
but with Gaskin, I think that the problem I don't like with Gaskin individually, even though I think Tua will have a decent game in the offensive play, I don't know if any one player, and I hope I'm wrong about Gaskin because I'm not going to play him, is that any one player won't completely pop. It'll be kind of the spread out thing. Like Tua's not so great that he can just go and lock in on somebody.
Yeah, because he's not really doing Waddle that way. I mean, Waddle's not playing bad,
backwards.
But
the healthier they got, again, Gesicki's numbers, like all these players, the numbers are going down the healthier they got.
Yeah,
so
Parker.
There's a team, it's better for them. You got Parker, you got Waddle, you got a tight end in Gesicki, you got Gaskin that you want to throw it to. They're not throwing it 40 times with Tua.
And he's a young quarterback, too.
Yeah,
so they're not. They're really not.
That much to really elevate. But if he goes out here and rushes for 50, 60 yards, gets a touchdown, and catches a lot of balls, yeah, he'll pay off. But I have a hard time clicking on him. I have a hard time clicking on some of the process.
So the last 3 games for week 6, 7, and 8, Tua's played. He threw 47 times. 40 times and 39 times. So they're throwing it.
They're throwing it.
His completion percentage ain't the last week against Buffalo. He was at 53%. So they were eating him alive.
Completions, not the attempts.
But he was completing 33, 32, and 21. He's going down, and it's mainly because of the defense he's played. But as you mentioned, he's going against a Houston defense that's not very good pass-wise, a better pass rush. There's a good chance that Tua can go out here. He'll probably at the same time, if they're able to get up early, he's not going to throw it 40 times. Okay. He may throw it 30 times.
So maybe I think, so if you want to get on that offense, I kind of maybe go with Parker. I think he had 8 catches last week.
Yeah.
His first game back.
He's still banged up, but I'd say Gaskins, the reason why I'm interested in Gaskins is I'm thinking about him in the Najee Harris deal.
Passes.
That was the reason why I drafted Najee Harris.
And Harris doesn't, and Damian Harris doesn't catch him. So
no, Damian Harris doesn't catch him. Najee Harris catches a lot for the Packers. Steelers, and so I can see Gaskins doing that again this week.
Sold me.
I can see that. So,
and I think the only thing cheaper at running back, by the way, I think you can go to. If you did not think it was a fluke, you can go back to Boston Scott at 5'2".
Yeah,
they have a great rushing matchup against the Chargers. That's the matchup. That is true. It's been going every week. It even happened again last week as the Chargers. Who did the Chargers play last week? Who is it that they went out there and I'll give it to you in a second. Give it to me. New England. Yep. Patriots. David Harris went out there and ran all over them. Yep. And the Chargers give up a lot of rushing yards. And Harris went out there and went all over. Just like we say every week. We keep saying it every week. Because I don't think that Kenneth Murray's back yet. No. They still got a lot of injuries. They brought Ramondre Stevenson back for in New England, but he didn't eat until he still went out there and carried the ball 23 times. Yeah. So I think that if you think that Boston Scott is going to be the lead rusher, because Gainwell got those touches in trash time for starters. He did. Because I played him. And he had 0 until late in the game. He carried the ball like 12 times, but this didn't amount to nothing. And when they didn't go with Boston Scott, they went to Jordan Howard. But I think at 5'2", if you think that Boston Scott's their leading rusher, that makes sense. Going to do anything, I think that at 5'2", he's something to consider because he is simply the starting running back in a great spot. Yeah, yeah. So
going down a little bit more as I'm looking at some of these other numbers, I like the Zeke Elliott idea because Dak's back and it'll be probably still trying to get the ball through Denver. Denver looks like they're throwing in the towel.
So we went straight to the bottom. So let's go back up top. Well, let's go.
Yeah.
We'll start with Kamara. You talked about Kamara up top at 8-2.
I think he's overpriced against Atlanta.
Yes, you can find any reason to fade the highest price running back. Also means he'll be low owned, but with Taysom Hill at the helm, well,
let me see.
We're assuming he's going to play instead of Trevor Siemian, of course.
Yeah, so looking at this, the Saints' defense is also very high at 337.
I actually don't mind them against Matt Ryan, but
I love them against Matt Ryan. They're the number 3 defense DVOA wise. So overall through this season, their defense is really legit again.
Yep.
The only and of course they know Matt Ryan and Matty Ice has been ice cold and horrible most of this year. So that defense will have a good game.
So you can find any reason to fade the highest price guy and go to Eckler. You could consider the Chargers defense if you really think, because eventually I keep talking about this floor falling out at Jalen Hurts, and they really just ran the ball over him. Like he's not passing, and if he doesn't run it, like he's all his receivers not having great games, and it's him. So
he's one of 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that leads his team in passing and rushing. Him, Lamar Jackson, and Daniel Jones. So because they lead their teams in rushing, they're being used for everything. And that's the thing. The problem for Jalen Hurts is that it's just him and Smith. And Smith is still learning. He's still learning the NFL way.
Right. It's true. He is a inconsistent rookie receiver.
Yes, and that's what happens. He's not Jamar Chase, who walked in there as an NFL receiver immediately. Right. But at the same time, Joe Burrow had more time with Jamar Chase than Devontae Smith had with Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts transferred right when Devontae had his next year. So,
at 7,
a little bit of balance.
So keep going down. Aaron Jones, I think you can play them with that Green Bay defense. We talked about how bad KC's continue to look, and the Green Bay's defense. When you look at their game log, they just are this consistent team. They went out here and they beat Kyler Murray. They the only team to beat them, and look at their game log. It's ever since the Saints debacle.
Yeah,
it's been 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 14, 8, and these are against. Not the greatest teams, but Burrow only allowed 22 points. Like the offense moves so slow with Rodgers at the helm. They milk the clock. They keep the ball out the other team's hand,
and that's what Aaron Rodgers like to play.
And that's what you want to do against Mahomes. So hopefully, if they kind of keep the same system with this new quarterback, which we don't know, but I tend to think they will keep the same thing.
It only makes sense. That's the logical thing to do is to groom him to literally be
Smart
the next
organization to just keep
groom him to be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, don't change anything.
Right now, he may not be as smart or as efficient and be able to do the things that Aaron Rodgers does with the impromptus, but if you can keep it close, you'll be good. Now, there's one on here I'm looking at,
and I know who it is, you don't want to do it, but you should.
It makes sense though.
Guy.
But it makes sense to do it because
in the Bengals defense.
Yes,
Cleveland is a dumpster fire. Baker did, him and his beef with OBJ. You got to play him. Showed all the video that he's been excused from practice. I don't even think he's going to play Sunday.
No, he's not. Oh no, I think he's
figure out a way. He's after the trade deadline. They got to figure out a way to funnel him to another team.
And they can't release him.
So
because nobody's going to pay him his salary.
They showed all the videos of how many times he missed them wide open.
Yeah, his dad did that. Yeah,
yes,
which was
how many? It's terrible.
It's terrible.
But it's true.
But at the same time, Baker's playing with a torn labrum in his left arm, and he's trying to figure it out.
Down.
You can't because they ain't got nobody.
They just run.
They go through quarterbacks.
They have two.
That's why they run the ball so much. Why they're the number one running team in the NFL.
And what's his name?
You got Chubb, and then you got Ernest Johnson.
They can run the ball. But so all that to say, just like Pittsburgh went out there and beat them 15-10. I actually I don't want to play this divisional matchup.
I hate divisional matchups like that.
I do too, but
I hate AFC North matchups.
Watch Burrow and Chase.
Oh, they're going to eat them alive.
Watch it happen. And I don't want to play it. And I don't want to play it. And I don't want to play Mixon, but I think him in the defense. I actually like the Bengals defense this week. So it won't make sense to have to want to like the Cleveland, the like Mixon. But
and cost-wise, they're only $29. They're underpriced.
He's overpriced in my opinion.
Who?
For Mixon for a receiver that does not catch passes. Elliott
remember
behind him at $7K.
Yeah, remember Joe Mixon is number 2 in the NFL in rushing yards. He's behind Derrick Henry now by like 400 yards.
But when they don't get in the end zone and that bottom falls out, because he lucked into that passing touchdown last week. Yeah, but if you take those points away, he's not. And before last week,
he's not a 30-point running back. You're not going to get 30 points in fantasy out of him.
We got 25 and 20.
He'll get you about 25. So at 7-1, he might be a little overpriced.
You want him to. You wish that he would get more be more consistent in the passing game.
Okay.
He has a few games here and there. Zeke is constantly involved in the pass game. When you go down to 7K, Chubb is not.
Now, there's one more I do want to ask you before we move on to the next position.
Dalvin Cook's a good play, by the way.
Dalvin Cook actually is
a good play in the
play
game stats. We talk about Lamar and Hollywood, and then Jefferson, or you play Lamar and Hollywood running back with Dalvin Cook. So he's a good play this week, actually.
Okay, so let me ask you this one. There's two guys I'm curious to. You think it'd be worth playing at their price point? Your boy Cordero Patterson.
I like him again this week. He's like
because he's everything.
Option.
Yeah, he's an everything guy. So he's probably going to get runs. He's going to get catches. He'll do enough.
So you just have to figure out what you think Atlanta's going to do this week because the catches help him. But, we see how bad they look without Calvin Ridley. He's having some issues, so we really don't know if he's going to play. We don't really know.
Ridley's out this week.
So the fantasy fallout from that, and, we saw what happened when Kyle Pitts gets kind of game planned against a good defense in Carolina. Like, we underestimate how good that defense is at times.
And he's going against the Saints, who is a really good defense, who knows that scheme. So most likely, even though the rule is not to put Marshawn Lattimore out there at that slot, they're probably going to have him have Marshawn Lattimore on him the entire game.
That would be interesting. I think
you shadow it. Makes sense.
I think you do actually. I think Cordell Patterson is a good play. I think he's a good play every week because he's so involved. He's heavily targeted. They forcing him touches, and him and Pitts are the best offensive talent they have. Russell Gage, Zacchaeus, and some other Tajay Sharp.
Yeah. So rookie Eli Mitchell, you think that he's going to have another moment? He's looking like banged up right now, and I'm curious if the 49ers can leverage him against Atlanta.
I think that you can, but I think that while you're in that boat, I think that, okay, we're talking about 5.8s. Honestly, I would rather go with Gaskin instead of Mitchell.
Makes sense.
Because this divisional game, I kind of see another 17-10. I don't know if Murray's going to play.
Yeah.
I just think that Arizona, I think that's a stay-away game. Like, you maybe play a defense and move on, and I don't even really feel too thrilled about that either. Like,
that's a good point.
This would be an ugly game. Like, on this slate, like you say, you got Gaskin there against Houston.
I wonder if Melvin Gordon would be worth it, though, but I think that'd be another
such a two-way committee with them, too.
With him and the Rook.
Is Denver, did they just give up on the season by trading Von Miller?
Yeah, I feel like because they
a team in a division
that's open.
The Chiefs suck. The Raiders just lost their best deep threat. Waller's banged up.
And their coach.
And
they also lost the GOAT and motivator of the team in the Peterman. So I think that's going to be the end of them.
In the season, like it sounds like in Denver almost. Like,
yeah.
So maybe, one of these days it'll be the Javonte Williams show. They'll eventually, because Melvin Gordon will eventually not need to run the ball for a bad team. So, values everything.
Checking us out, of course, here on YouTube. Yep. Hit up the OSG Report on Medium. That's where you'll see all of the details that you need in order to have a successful week in fantasy. Hopefully we can get us another good winning week. We're going to jump right into the wide receiver tight end setup. Yes. So we gave you the QB wide receiver stacks at the beginning, the important ones, all the big names to look at. We're going to jump into the middle of the road guys that make the most sense.
Yeah, who are some? I always kind of write this section of receivers that we really don't want to play their quarterbacks with them. Up top, you got like Deebo Samuels. Like, as long as Jimmy G is his quarterback, like, he's commanding all the targets for this team. He's got games with 12, 10, 13, 9, 11, 9 targets. He just had 171 yards. Didn't even get in the end zone, but still good for 26 fantasy points last week against Chicago. Ooh. And so now he gets Arizona. He only had 16. That divisional game. When are they going to bring Stephon Diggs' price down?
They're not going to bring Diggs' money down. There's something about Diggs.
They just want him to be this 7-7 guy, and he's just not.
That's not his game.
Not anymore. Like, it's spread out. Like, it's a balanced offense.
Yeah.
We talked about going right back to Chase. I think Jefferson will bounce back.
And that's the funny thing about it is you're going to get a bounce back from Chase. You're going to get a bounce back from Jefferson. I think CeeDee Lamb will be good this week if he plays.
And I almost want Cooper for less money because we saw how explosive he looked last week when healthy.
Yeah, and Lamb is a little banged up, it looks like.
He is banged up.
Ankle sprain, and that takes away from who he is. So, yeah, if you go cheaper, you probably want to go down.
Yeah, I'm having I'm not going to play DJ Moore.
So I think there's a couple of pieces that I would consider looking at this week at solid prices in the under 6,000.
Yep. Let's go there. It's a good place.
Cortland Sutton.
Yes.
This week because of the way Dallas plays defense. Now, this is what's going to happen. Teddy Bridgewater is going to throw an interception to Trayvon Diggs because he's going to force it to Sutton. But Sutton's also going to get like 100 yards receiving in this game. It's the perfect setup because that's what happens. Diggs, they live and die by the interception and by jumping the play, and they give up a ton of yards. Both him and was it Anthony Brown, the other corner, are tops in the league in yards that they've given up on coverage. So this is the perfect scenario for a Cortland Sutton. This is a really good scenario probably for Noah Fant if he plays.
Actually, he's out with COVID.
And so he is out with COVID. So he's on the COVID list.
Alberto at the cheap.
Alberto.
Go down to him.
Yes, because Alberto was eating after.
Go to him. So I do like the Sutton call. They kind of seem to be easing Judy in, but he got right back in, had 4 catches, had a decent day. So he actually got 3 decent receivers there with him, them 2, and Patrick. But I think Alberto is not actually a bad value at wide receiver.
This makes sense. And they're saying that there's a chance that Noah can still play because he's vaccinated.
Right.
So there's a good chance he can still play Sunday.
So got to watch the news. That's an early game.
Your eyes
so you got to
him.
watch that.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones. And he's on my roster, so I'll find out immediately.
So under 6K, once again, one of my favorite players is going to be Cole Beasley. As long as Dawson Knox is out, I kind of was really high on him this past week. I wrote him up. And then
I'm feeling T. Higgins this week.
I was going to say that
Optimizer's got him third at wide receiver.
He's steadily getting the targets. Like Chase, they going big plays with Chase. I don't mind T. Higgins again.
Here's your wide receivers in the Optimizer that I got earlier this morning. You got DJ Moore at 35. You got Devontae Adams at 30%.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill showed up in 28% of the plays. Amari Cooper at 27%. T. Higgins at 27%. Okay. And then Jacoby Myers is another one to keep your eyes on.
So instead of Myers, because I'm just not going to play a guy that just can't and won't, and they're not going to throw him touchdowns. When they get down there, I actually kind of like playing Hunter Henry instead of Myers. When everybody wants to play Myers, I always go Hunter Henry.
So is Myers like diet Julio Jones, where he's never going to catch a touchdown?
He's just not going to do it. He's just not going to do it.
They just don't give it to him.
They're going to run it, or they're going to throw it to Henry. And so I've been banking on Henry. So out of the last 5 weeks, 4 of those weeks he got touchdowns. Bottomed out last week.
Yeah.
But you go back to him. So
it looks
Beasley at 5'4".
Yeah.
Higgins at 5'3". If DeAndre Hopkins we talked about Christian Kirk at 5'3".
Yep.
And instead of Myers at 5'2", I actually don't mind. I always play this guy every single week. And he's always, at 4, he's averaging double digits. Way down here at 4A, and that's Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, I was about to say, with the situation with Ruggs, he is the guy that you probably want to jump on.
2 weeks ago against Philly, he had 8 targets, 7 catches. So now it's the same spot. They're playing the Giants, for crying out loud.
It's a good spot for him.
Waller's probably coming back, but he's coming off injury, and now you got your receiver down. I think Hunter Renfrow and Cole Beasley are just going to be the Wes Welker plays of the week. I just think in the slot. I like them at value spots there.
I can see that. Now, if you did listen to me earlier in the show, and I told you to do AJ Green, he's on COVID right now, so we probably should look at Christian Kirk a lot more.
If Hopkins is out. And then any wide receiver for the New York Giants that is healthy and active is a play. I think that Shepard is doubtful. Galladay still hadn't come back. He's still questionable. So between Tony and and Slayton, like who else is gonna? I actually don't mind Devontae Booker. Like I think there's some cheap value in that Vegas Giants game. We'll write them up a little bit. So whoever is playing for them is a good value play. I think.
I agree.
Whoever's playing,
I agree. And I mentioned Denver for a reason with everything the way Dallas plays and when they give up yards. So you got to look at Sutton. You got to look at Jerry Jeudy, and you got to look at Tim Patrick. All 3 of them are worth your eyes and Big O, because, like I said, Dallas will get turnovers, they will get stops, but they will give up yards in coverage. That's the thing that they do a lot of. So keep that in mind. But you do probably want to play the Dallas defense because, like I said, they'll get turnovers. They'll get a ton of tackles. They may get a defense a touchdown as well. So they are worth considering on that end. But another one that's been on my mind is your boy Chenault.
They just won't play him. They want to play Agnew, and they won't play the good players.
Jamal Agnew is probably going to be your 4-3. He's probably worth
should be playing
to go after. They should be playing Chenault. Him,
they just won't do it.
Look at Agnew and look at Randall Cobb this week.
Yeah,
there's a good chance
getting off of the Jags. They keep trying them. That was the best chance to get it. Now they're playing a good defense now in Buffalo, and I don't.
It looks like Alan Lazard is off the COVID list, so he's been reinstated. So there's a chance that you can have Lazard, Randall Cobb, as well as your Adams to play for the Packers. So there's something to really keep an eye on. But I think based upon the way they may use Love, he's one of those guys he's going to cling to.
Yep.
I don't know who.
Right.
One of those guys he's going to cling to. It should be Adams. But there's a chance it could be the veteran Randall Cobb because he's just more of a possession guy, or he may just want to go big and hit up Lazard and just sit back there and just lob it.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig deeper into that matchup. So
that's a good one to look for the write up on and try to get an understanding of what you think may come from. Besides that, I don't think
Alberto is cheap and that's it. And then
what about Hardman?
No.
Do you think he's a sneaky cheap guy?
I don't trust him. I just think it's Tyreek Hill, and then when we look at these tight ends, like Kelsey's not looking. I think it's just Hill or bust. But I don't think they're trotting all kinds of stuff out there in Kansas City, and they don't trust Hardman. They're showing it. They trust him.
Since week 5, he had 12 targets in 5 in week 6, 5 in week 7, and 7 in week 8 against the Giants.
Efficiency though.
He had 5 catches, 4 catches, 4 catches, and 9 catches. Well, 9 catches against the 12 targets, 4 catches against the 5 targets twice, and then 5 catches to the 7. So he missed 2.
Hardman? How much you got him at?
Huh?
How much is he?
Ooh, he's only 39. So he's a good cheap option. And think about like I mentioned at the beginning. That was my thing with the Cooper Kupp Van Jefferson piece. I knew that there may be a breakout play that Van Jefferson gave me a breakout play to give me some points.
So you play them both. So you got Hill up top, and then you have Hardman at the bottom.
A cheap guy. You had
Kupp up top. You got Jefferson down.
So if you stack him with a high end receiver, I don't think he's a bad play. Similar to playing Michael Pittman, because I think Pittman is the guy in Indy.
So one problem I have with the Kansas City is that I don't want to play Kelsey, but it's like the best spot in the league for tight ends against Green Bay week in and week out, and so it's like he's declining. This would be the spot for him to break out. I'm kind of having a hard time in Bills, like getting to spend up at tight end. Like it's almost like a game stack to play Kelsey. You're not just gonna plug him in, but it's a good matchup for him. Waller back from injury, like 6'2". I'm just wanting cheap. Andrews in a bad spot. Atlanta's offense is hard to trust. Gesicki is not. His numbers go down when everybody's healthy. He's still efficient, but. One of my favorite plays is probably going to land on because I always play tight against Cleveland. We talked about the Cincinnati thing. Like I think CJ Uzoma might be like the sneaky cheap tight end this week.
Again.
And he keeps popping every other couple of games. And now he gets the spot against Cleveland and play this tight end spot like all the time. We saw Firemuth get in the end zone there. Yeah. A good game against Pittsburgh. Like it never fails with their scheme. That tight ends just produce against him. And so I actually like him at 3.9. Like that's him at 3.9, Hunter Henry at 4K, Jared Cook at 3.3. I'm going to probably be living down there in my tight ends this week.
Yeah.
And not up top.
Dan Arnold.
You can go back to the well, and we talked about how
I stay in the well with him. He had 10 targets. His targets have been going up every week just about.
I'm afraid, I am, matchup-wise with his price up, I'm afraid of just an overall
he's at 34.
Obliteration by the Buffalo defense.
Yeah.
But and you know what, and Arnold, when you kind of look at the game flow, he kind of got all those targets in trash time. It was kind of late, but hey, fantasy, it doesn't matter.
You want trash time.
They're in danger of just getting another blowout. So maybe the next blowout, whether he's not in the game in the fourth quarter or not, but, it's a much worse spot than it was last week, but I can't hate it either.
Exactly.
Because he's going to get the targets. Tight ends are productive in this Jacksonville offense, week in, week out. So that's it. We can go to these features, and I think that's tight end in a nutshell.
That's tight ends. Okay, yeah, okay.
It really is. I think go cheap at tight end this week.
Go tight. All right. So thanks for checking us out. Let's dive right into the Frozen feature. So this is...
Can't bust 3 weeks in a row.
These are the coldest hot takes we got.
Yes.
It's going to be so cold it burns you.
Yes, son.
And so we're going to figure it out, B. So this is, we want to know, OSG, every position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, special teams, what we're going to get, who's going to break out this week. So let's start off. Quarterback. Who's going to get us 5 touchdowns?
Ooh, that's a lot of touchdowns.
I want a quarterback that's going to throw it. We need some entertainment this week, and we haven't had it too much at quarterback. Who going to give us 5 touchdowns? I wasn't going to go 400 yards like Mike White did last week, but nah.
Impossible.
I want something even more fun.
Even if we don't get 5, I think he's going to be the best play of the week, and it's Lamar.
Ooh.
Because he can run for a couple.
Okay.
So it don't have to be out through there like him and Josh Allen, but let's take Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson.
Like Lamar this week. He's kind of like I think he's leaning towards my favorite quarterback of the week right now.
Got that bye week after that loss. Something to think about. Think they're going to come out playing better. Okay. They're going to come out slanging. All right, running back. Who's going to get us 100 yards and 3 touchdowns? Big weeks.
Austin Eckler. Kind of liked him to bounce back last week. Kind of like him again this week. I think it's a good spot for a running back, especially those that catch the balls against Detroit. Swift didn't get there because they just didn't do nothing. Kind of like Swift last week. And Eckler is, Swift 2.0, on steroids and in a productive offense behind a good quarterback.
And good receivers.
Moving the ball. You can see Eckler get 2 scores, get 100 yards this week.
Yep. All right. Wide receiver. Who's going to get us 200 yards receiving? Who's going to have a ridiculous good game?
200. So it's only a few guys that's in their repertoire to come close to it. And so
I'm thinking one right now. I'm looking at him. I'm like, I think this may be a good breakout. But
another one. So he's already had one.
Now, hasn't had one, but he's starting to break out.
Who are you thinking?
Thinking Amari Cooper.
Ooh.
I feel like Dak's back. Ooh. This is Dak's return. Ooh. They said there's no chance he won't play.
Okay.
It feels like this is the week where with Lamb hurting, hobbling a little bit, he'll play. Lamb's going to play. I think Cooper's going to down. I think Cooper's going to run it.
I'm going to give you that one. So I think just based on the quarterback, I got to take Marquise Brown. I do think he's going to burn the Minnesota defense a couple of times. Like I think he can get behind this defense. I think it's built for him to produce, him and Bateman. So
this week, be a big week.
So if you don't get 200, like you don't have 150, 100. Like I think he's had a big week.
Okay.
I think Lamar and Hollywood stacks are hot fire this week, son.
Super hot fire,
son. Dylan, Hollywood.
Fire. All right. The super hot fire. Tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to get us 2 touchdowns this week? Who's going to be that safety net for somebody?
I don't like them, but I think if this team is going to win, they got to get back to the basics. Like they're on film, I'm hearing that he's getting out of the offense too fast in Mahomes. Got to get back to the basics. It's a great matchup for him. Whether you throw it to him 12 times or not, when you get down there in the red zone, throw the ball to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
They don't guard tight ends well. They get beat by tight ends that have less talent than he does.
That's true.
Throw it to Travis Kelce for 2 touchdowns.
Travis Kelce.
I'll play him in stacks. I talked about not spending up at tight end, but if I play Mahomes, like if I just go down on Sunday and depending on how many lineups I play, I'm like, okay, I got to play all these scenarios out. If I land on Mahomes, I have to play Kelce. If I play Jordan Love, I run him back with Travis Kelce. In stacks, Love, Aaron Jones, Travis Kelce.
Makes sense.
Love, Adams, Kelce. So 2 touchdowns can come from Travis Kelce this week because of this matchup.
Okay. Defense, special teams. Who's going to score on the defensive side or with their special teams?
Oh, boy. They are so expensive, but I don't see a world that New England does not take the ball away from Sam Darnold and run it to the end zone one way or the other.
Dang. I didn't think of it that way, but they are expensive. I think they're expensive for a reason. Analytics is telling us something.
They are too, and then for that matter, they're so expensive, and I can see somebody taking the ball away from Trevor Lawrence because they going to throw it 54 times like they did last week. And I tried to play him I played Lawrence, but the process was okay. It was Seattle defense. They threw it 54 times, but they rather throw it to Agnew than Chenault.
Yeah, makes sense.
They rather throw it to Bums instead of Marvin Jones Jr. They rather give it the ball to Carlos Hyde instead of James Robinson.
Yeah.
So he's just stupid, and he rather play him and his owner. They just want to play guys that they I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
They're just terrible.
They're just terrible with it.
They're just terrible.
It's terrible with it.
And if you don't like a high spin, which I understand that, you know, if in this divisional matchup, if Baker goes out here with bum shoulders trying to do too much, like they don't really play a lot of mistake football, but you know, this tight divisional game, you know, those little big plays is what makes the difference.
Yeah.
And so a defensive touchdown could do it because I really like the Bengals defense, so I got to throw them out there. So it's New England and it's the Bengals.
New England and the Bengals. Okay.
And the Bengals.
We'll keep it with that. All right. That's everybody.
Much better week.
It's much. Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's make it happen, baby.
Go.
Let's make it happen. We need this in our lives. So
we need it bad.
With that, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on the OSG Fantasy Report show with Unfair Sports. Check out the OSG's write-up on Medium so you can get the more details to go along with our conversations through here. Definitely worth your time. We've won. You should too. Yes. So for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing your thing on the back end side for the OSG. Let's make that money, y'all.
Let's do it.
Let's just make that money. That's all I got to say on it. Hit us up, 430-901-1906, and tell us how you feeling, how successful you been. Check out the Instagram account at the OSG Report for lineup examples. Let's make that money, y'all.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. That, chop up a few days. Peace.